so that, and I'll share it with you. I'll share it with other people who maybe came in late or something. So just for background, my name is David Carr. I am a writer and editor in the technology industry. I'm currently writing for VentureBeat and some other publications. I'm a freelancer, so I'm out there hustling for work. I have written about web development and web innovation for a long time. I was with Internet World magazine in the mid-1990s when the web was just starting to become a thing, or a commercial thing anyway. And so I've been watching for a long time and have experimented over the years in, what can I actually put in practice? How can I take what these great people who've gotten rich off the internet have done and apply it to my own humble things, including, my club website. A number of years ago, I inherited a free Toastmost site, and with the arrogance of anybody who does any kind of computer programming, said, well, I can do better than that. And so I tried to, and I'm still trying to. So one of the things about moving over to WordPress is that it has a model for extensibility. It was originally Blogger software created by bloggers for bloggers. It's become a broader web publishing platform that's used by a lot of small business websites, also some big business websites. If you go to the Walt Disney Company's investor page, that's a WordPress website they've built out. And so the fact that it allows you to post new content on a regular basis, the blogging feature, makes it natural for any kind of newsy oriented sites. A number of years ago, I came up with a plugin called Rsvp Maker, which is scheduling software. So it allows you to advertise events that are going to appear on a given date and time, accept registrations for them, and track those registrations, follow up with the people who registered. So when you registered for this event, Rsvp Maker is what you use there. So my idea was, well, I'll take this scheduling thing that I already have and add yet another layer on top to allow it to handle meeting agendas. And so that's essentially, what I call the WordPress for Toastmasters project. Toastmost.org is the most convenient way to get access to it, because you just fill out a form, you register, and you've got a website, and you're supposed to be off to the races. So I will go through the process of creating a demo site, just as a way of showing Mike, who's just on the verge of getting started, how you would go about that. So if you go to toastmost.org, there's a little bit of propaganda here about how wonderful it is. And then there is something where you do need to register first. You sign up for the email list, and then we let you create a website. If some people come to this forum already having a password because they belong to another club that uses the software, and so they can log in and go straight to this page. So I'm just going to call this the November 13th Club. And it's going to start out with an address of November 13th. So it'll be November 13th, 2021 .toastmost.org would be the address. Now, it is possible, if your club wants to get it, register its own domain name, you can go to GoDaddy or whoever, and you can register a domain and associate it with this site. There's a little bit of work I have to do on the back end to make that happen. And so that's something that you have to reach out to me and arrange, but it can be done if you want that as sort of a branding thing for your club. So we would put in our location. And because we want it to be able to handle our agenda, we want to put in what our basic meeting schedule is. And I've tried to make this so that it can handle some variations, so that if you meet on the first and third Wednesday, meet at 8 p.m., you can set this up here, and I'll say submit. And if the internet gods are with me, it'll come back and give me a website to get started with. So it takes a few minutes for processing on the back end. So it's telling me to please wait. And you should get this screen of information should also come to you by email, so that you can go back and reference it. So it tells you something about design choices that you can make. And it's going to start out with a default design, and you can modify it from there. And then where it says finish site setup, if you either click there or on club website wizard, what I'm really trying to do here is gather together a bunch of settings that are kind of scattered in several different places around the website, and give you a way of starting to organize your agenda and organize your club from here. So theoretically, this is taking some of the complications out of the process. So we're trying to plot out, when you run a meeting, how long do you allow up front for the preliminaries, the initial introductions. The Toastmaster of the day introduces the other role players. You know, this may not actually be the way you structure your meetings, but I'm trying to generalize how a lot of people run their meetings and allow you to make modifications. So if you don't have a body language monitor or a humorist, but you do have some other role, you can modify that list here. Usually the core of a Toastmasters meeting is we'll have some number of speeches and some number of evaluations. So you can set that up here. Do you do table topics? And if so, when do you do it? After speakers and before the evaluators. Do we take a break in there somewhere? Actually, yes, we do. We do that, let's see, after the speakers. So that would be before table topics. And then some of the other things are sort of outlined in here. Do you want a widget on the page where people can click to say, I'm going to be absent for this meeting? We found that that's kind of a handy thing to do. Do you want to list the officers on the agenda? So there's like a printable default agenda format for you. Do you want to invite guests to register online? Well, if you're an online club, the answer is probably no. If you're hybrid, or your answer is probably yes. If you're a hybrid club, the answer is yes. If you're strictly in person, you might want guests to register anyways. Anyways, a lot of these things are different depending on how you want to organize your club.
David?
Yes.
It's Laura. I have a quick question. If you could scroll back up a little bit. The club that I'm thinking of launching this website for, yeah, I'm that technologically savvy. Not. Anyway, they do speech evaluation, break, speech, and then evaluation, speech, and then evaluation. So they put the evaluations immediately after the speech.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to do that?
Well, there's a way to do everything. If that might actually be something where I would need to work with you on custom tweaking it a little bit. Okay. So I guess I would guess sort of going through this initial setup process, go with the flow a little bit, and then talk to me about how we might need to tweak things for you.
Okay, sounds good.
And you know, I'm happy to do that. I do have some clubs that pay a little extra on the annual subscription because I've helped them out on some of these extra bells and whistles. Anyways, so the idea is that I would go through this process, and there is a prompt that allows you to add a couple of accounts for other members. So typically you might want to invite a couple of other officers in to kind of kick the tires with you. And so I can say we're going to invite Joe Demo. Joe Demo. I may already have an account for Joe Demo at example.com, but he's my VP of Education. And I also want him to be another administrator for the site so that I'm not carrying the burden on my own. So maybe you're the technical, maybe you're the semi-technical person, you've got somebody else who's a little bit more of a techie and you want them to help you out. You might want to make them an administrator on the site. So got some other options here. And then it presents you with this page of where you can go next. You will also, something I've added for clubs to help them get started is there's a couple of emails that'll come to you that are like your to-do list of things that maybe you haven't done yet, trying to get you, help people know where to go to fill in the blanks. So one of the first things you might want to do is edit the home page. So edit the content that's going to appear here. So this is, it's set up taking some of the information that we put in on the form and just putting it in text here so that people can see that when they come to your club website. There's a widget here that will appear as the RSVP form on the front. And then there's a bunch of boilerplate that I've included that is from Toastmasters International about the nature of Toastmasters Club. I mean, I recommend sort of editing that out over time. Really what you want to start telling people is why you are so fabulous. So, you know, join this club because ... Well, you know, whatever it is that makes your club special. If you have a particular focus on a particular population or particular skills, there are, you know, Toastmasters comedy clubs is somebody I know who actually has worked with me on this stuff quite a lot, runs a Dungeons and Dragons themed Toastmasters club. So, you know, anything that you have that makes your club special, unique, you want to spell out here, particularly if you are moving in the direction of being either an online club or a hybrid club. You need to explain why you're different from every other online and hybrid club in the world and why people who might not necessarily be local might want to join. So actually, let me take a moment to spell out one of the basic concepts about the editor that also comes into play if you're editing the agenda. And that is the idea that every bit of content can be a different type of content block. So this is something that was introduced in WordPress a couple of years ago. So instead of being a general word processor, we're trying to say, you know, this is a multimedia experience. If you want to include a special block, for example, this is a special block for inviting members to upcoming events. But I can also have an obvious one would be a picture. You just start typing picture or image. It will search and tell you some of the available blocks. So there's also an image gallery. But you know, a very typical thing we might want to do is add an image of something related to the club to our home page. And the caption can be blah, blah, blah. And we'll publish that. But the point there is that if I wanted to add a video, there would be a different video block. Although actually you can just copy and paste a link from YouTube and it will kind of infer that that's supposed to be a video block. So here's what I have so far. You know, welcome to Numsuch. We have this default featured image up top that we can change. There's actually some instructions right there about how to change it. And then there's all this boilerplate here that we want to start to phase out and replace with what makes our club special. Why don't I stop there and take a breath and give folks a chance to ask questions on what I've done so far. We've got somebody and okay, I've got one thing in the chat here, and I see some other people have come in. Welcome, Andy Byrne, old friend of mine from Online Presenters, as well as my home club, Club Awesome, in South Florida. So the floor is open. Anybody?
I have another question.
Sure.
The very top of the web page, it had, you know, what I assume are stock drop downs. Like, I don't remember. It was the stock picture that was kind of blue. Right. And then what did it have? Blog or, you know, something like that.
Sure.
Calendar, members.
We can go back and look at that.
Okay. Those are changeable?
Yep.
Beautiful. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, everything is, well, just about everything is changeable. And you don't necessarily have to. So WordPress has this concept of themes. So a theme is a set of web templates that say they're the general organization of the site. And they say things like there's going to be a featured image at the top of each page that you can change. Some websites have that and some don't. And so this may be hard to see, but if you look at this black bar at the top of the screen, it has options to visit the dashboard, which is sort of the administrative backend. And then there's this one here that says customize. So if I go into customize, I can see how this site would look with some of those other themes substituted. So this is sort of an outline of the different themes, and then I can do a live preview inside this customized theme that shows how the whole layout would change if I picked that theme. So what I've actually done is there are many different designers who create these themes. This is the one that I had. I basically took a very boilerplate design and I customized it to have the image up top. This looks sort of like a free toast host site, but with more customization for the menus and such. Let's see. You can
change the picture as well.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. And so this is this is a web design that instead of a featured image that's different for each page, you can have one featured image that's throughout the site. And see if I can find something to work with. So this is going to be kind of ridiculous, but so let me. All right, I told you something wasn't going to work, but that's actually not my fault. That particular one is not my fault.
So the brick wall.
Let me show you. Friend of mine, Nick Licani from Online Presenters, set up this site, and he wanted this futuristic look. So he has a featured image that follows you throughout the site. So if we go to a different page, we'll actually see just a more compact version of that featured image up top. That's a header image for the whole site. which is a little bit different from the default theme that I had, where actually it's a different, let's see, let me just exit out of this without changing it. So if I go over here to this page, we don't see that same guy showing up top. But if I wanted to have a different featured image for this page, I can go to this featured image section and pick, say, this image. And again, that's not going to make a lot of sense, but I'm just demoing how it works. So for whatever reason you wanted to have this brick themed picture at the top of the page, you could choose that. And in this particular theme, everything appears behind a blue screen. So regardless of how the image looked originally, it's going to look kind of blue up top.
Is it better to use black and white if you're gonna, because it's behind
it might be. Actually, it does a pretty good job of just applying that screen to almost any color coverage, almost any design you might pick.
Okay.
Let me just show you one more. So this one doesn't have that idea of the featured image being the same everywhere. And so on this page, we would just get that. You would get it at the top of the post, but it's not showing up everywhere. And if I go to the welcome page, I think there's actually a couple of different options for how this can be displayed, but that's a featured image for the page. All right, and you asked about menus. So that would be another thing that you would go into the customizer for. And we can say that we want to add, say I'm going to actually add a new page called special programs. And it's just going to add a blank page in for me. It's gone down to the end of the list. And this is, you know, it's over on the, let's see. All right, so we see it over here. Mm-hmm. So on the left, we're seeing them arranged vertically. Over here, they actually are displayed horizontally. But the idea here is that we can also have some hierarchy. So if we wanted to make special programs a sub-menu under calendar, we can do that. So, you know, there's, again, there is a lot to learn here. But I would say that, you know, choosing the overall theme is probably, you know, one of your first choices. Do you like a certain color scheme? If people are, I have had people contact me about who are volunteered to contribute additional themes. They haven't necessarily followed through with me. But what I've done is I've taken some popular WordPress themes and I've just customized them to make room for the logo and some other sort of Toastmasters specific elements. Let's see. So I guess I spent a lot of time on really one topic or you know, variations on one topic. Other things that people want me to cover right now, and if not, I might move on to showing editing the agenda, which I think is one of our big problems. One of the places where people get stuck. Okay.
Can I just ask a quick one? Because I'm doing the Toastmaster setup wizard as we're talking. The setting up the user accounts, the distinction between administrator, manager, what else is there? Editor. Yeah. Administrator, manager. So if I want to be the person who chooses the theme and stuff like that, am I the administrator? Like, what's the distinction?
No. Okay, so if you're, you know, sort of on a routine basis, most club members, let me say, with the default settings, actually there are options for people who want to tighten up the security and they only want some people to be able to change the agenda. But you can set things up so that anybody from the club who is taking the role of Toastmaster of the day can edit who's assigned to what roles, can edit the theme of the meeting. You only need to make them an editor if they need to be able to edit at a deeper level. If they want to rearrange the entire structure of the agenda, they need to be an editor. If they need to change what's on the home page, they need to be an editor. Administrator can change any of the settings on the site, can add new members. So, you want to be a little bit conservative about who you give those superpowers to.
Okay.
And a manager is a custom role that I came up with. It's not standard on WordPress, but it's somebody who is an editor who can also add user or member accounts, which by default in WordPress would not be something an editor would do. Okay, so manager is just is sort of in between an administrator and an editor. But we're not giving them the power to rename the whole website or change settings. Sometimes you want to be careful about who you give the power tools. It's not necessarily that you don't trust them. It's that they, if they haven't gotten some training, if they're not tech savvy, they might cause some damage unintentionally.
Okay. Well, thanks.
Yep. Tara.
Before we move on, I was playing in the site yesterday and I installed Jetpack. So can you just briefly talk about that?
Okay, so Jetpack is sort of the Swiss Army knife of WordPress plugins. So a plugin is something that adds some extra bit of functionality to the website. Jetpack is published by the primary corporate backer of WordPress. There's a company called Automatic, founded by a guy named Matt, which runs WordPress.com. They also bought an e-commerce plugin. They've bought up a number of other companies that have been built up around WordPress that have been successful. So the Woocommerce plugin is one of the things they are. Anyways, Jetpack essentially gives you a bunch of capabilities that you would get if you were running your website on WordPress.com. They've sort of franchised off those things. Okay. So there's some performance improvements. Mm-hmm. There are some social media integration features that are handy, and so Jetpack is actually active by default on all the Toastmost.org sites, but you have to create an account. Mm-hmm. It's like this is the way tech companies work. They're all trying to get your contact information and kind of rope you in a little bit. And there are also a number of plugins. Jetpack is one of them, where you can turn it on and you get some basic functionality, and then they try and convince you need to upgrade. Okay. I'm despite the fact that I'm trying to charge for what I offer, I tend to be cheap when it comes to upgrading things. I try and get the maximum value I can out of the free version, and then maybe I'll think about it. So I think there's the only I think the only plugin I'm paying for is one that improves the security on Toastmost.org.
Yeah, I was reading up on it, and that's the reason why I wanted to ask you a question about it.
For example, you can use Jetpack to have tweet this and Facebook share this buttons at the bottom of every blog post. Right. So the blog is actually one of the features that I often don't see clubs making a lot of productive use of. But it's one of the best things you can do in terms of search engine optimization, is to have a focused article where somebody shares their expertise on working with Zoom or
Right.
vocal variety or body language. You know, if you can get those things to rank in Google or get shared on social media and they become popular, that is a way of attracting people to your club website. And while they're there, maybe they sign up and come visit your next meeting.
Right.
So that's
it seemed like it could improve search engine optimization and overall workflow. So
right.
that's
And WordPress is known for being pretty good sort of out of the box for search engine optimization. And then there are some things you can do to enhance that.
okay.
And I'll share some articles after this call,
Okay.
including something on SEO, since we touched on that.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
All right, let me dive into the agenda stuff, because it is where people get quite confused. And I try to make it simple, and I'm always looking for your feedback on how it can be simpler. But let's talk about reality. Let's see, there's something in the chat. Question about, oh, okay. Leslie asked about your question earlier. Okay. All right. So I'm still on my demo site here. If I go to the calendar, hopefully there should be some events showing up here based on what we said the schedule was for this club. So here's a Thursday meeting, and it's set up with welcome and introductions and a sign up for the Toastmaster of the day, speakers, evaluators, and so on. So if I'm logged in here, I can just go here to take role. So now I would be the Toastmaster of the day. And if I come back later and decide I can't take the role after all, I can remove myself. It should show a message there saying that I'm removed, but it's not. But let's see. So now that's an open role again. I can also edit this, because somebody called me up on the phone and said that they could take the role. So I can make Joe Demo the Toastmaster of the day. There is also a way to put in a guest, because you have a guest speaker or a guest filling some other role. So we'll make, let's see, we'll do it here. Make Sally the counter and submit that. And if I reload the page, we'll see Sally, but it says guest, and she would show up on the agenda. There is this other thing called suggest, where I can and normally we do this on an open role. That's a little bit messed up there, but so if I wanted to, so it's actually telling me that Joe is already signed up to be Toastmaster of the day. So this isn't a realistic example, but what I can do is I can nominate him, and he will get an email message saying that it'd be great if you did this. Or sometimes let's see, maybe I could show you a more realistic example. So if I go over here, it's an open role. Okay, all right, so there's an open role for evaluator. If I go here to suggest, when I look down the list of members, I'll actually see some hints about how long it's been since they filled that role. And so that gives you some hints too, if you're either editing or doing this suggesting thing. And so, sort of my example is, if I wanted to send Angela a note, I can say, or if I wanted to send Ben a note, I'd say you haven't done this in a year, or you haven't done this in a couple of years. It would be great if you filled in as an evaluator. I think he might not actually be active with the club. Let's say. So that's how the agenda, works on a weekly basis. We can view that. And so this is the default format with the, it's supposed to be printable. It's supposed to fit on one page if things go just right. And that format can be modified, although I won't get into that. That's a little bit more hairy. But so if I want to change the structure for this individual meeting, I can go into the editor and I will see these widgets here. So I talked about different kinds of blocks. So I have a role block. I have an agenda note block, which is just a note that appears on the agenda. And we can have time associated with those things for an activity like a 5-minute break. It's not assigned to anybody, but we take a 5-minute break and we want to include that in our planning. And then we have this editable note one that says, welcome and introductions. So before I change anything, let me go back out here and show. So if we don't change anything, this would just appear as a placeholder on the agenda that says, here we do welcome and introductions. But I can also add a note that says, our area director is visiting. Be on your best behavior. So this is what I'm trying to do here, is allow somebody who's serving as the Toastmaster of the day to do this function, even though they don't have editing rights. So this now shows up on the sign up page. And if we go to the view the agenda, we see it says, our area director is visiting, please be on your best behavior. So it's just sort of a block here where you can include details like that. And I often do the same thing for theme and word of the day. So theme is learning new things. And, word of the day, prodigy. And we make either, depending on how your club does it, you might or might not provide a definition of what that word is and how to pronounce it. So those are meant to be things that are easy to change. So I showed you what I might do. I can just click here on the top where it says edit if I want to go in and edit the event. Now, very important concept here is we have the events for the individual weeks, but we also have a template that's sort of our model of how we typically organize our events. So if I'm doing something different for one particular week, like usually we have 3 speakers and this week we're going to only have 2, then I can go into edit and change that. So I'm making a change for just this one week. And maybe I add something that says, we're going to have an educational program about pathways at the beginning of the meeting before we do our speeches and our usual table topics. On the other hand, if instead of changing it for just one week, I want to change it for all my meets, what I really want to do is come down here and there's an option that says edit template. So when this loads into the editor, one of the ways you know that you're in the template, not the meeting, not a specific date, is instead of a specific date being lifted over here to the right, it says 1st and 3rd Wednesday.
Where?
So, so now I can go through, and in the example that I used a minute ago, maybe we've decided that we're not getting 3 good speakers every week. So we're going to go down to planning on 2 speakers, and this should be evaluator, not general evaluator. Should be 2 speakers and 2 evaluators. And I'm going to update that, and I can make more extensive changes. But when I update, this prompt appears at the top that says, click either create a new event based on this template or create update events, which is actually the one I'm going to want. So what I want to do is I want to update all my future meetings to have that new organization. So now we're going to have 2 speakers and 2 evaluators as a rule for all our upcoming meetings. And you might also look through here to see whether you have one of these things falling on a holiday, and you can uncheck that date. You can always go back and delete it later if you miss something like that. But so this is how you selectively can update all the meetings or all the or some of them. And if I go through and look, I should now see we have 2 speakers and 2 evaluators instead of 3. Okay.
Mhm.
So that's the concept. Now, I'll edit just this one particular meeting, and now we see December 2nd instead of, you know, 1st and 3rd Wednesday. And if I want to modify this, we talked a little bit about how one particular club does speaker evaluator, which is different from the default. But another thing that comes up is that the order may be different. You know, maybe you do table topics, but you do it before the speakers. So I can move things up and down. When I click on this little toolbar appears, and up and down is one of the options. There's also this little, I think it looks like a little gripper thing. So I grab the gripper, then I can drag and drop, and I can move table topics up to before speeches. If I want to add something, I can go here and I can say role, or you might just want to type in Toastmasters, which will show you, or start to type Toastmasters, which will show you all the different things that you can insert. But the agenda role is a common one. So now we just have a blank role introduced, but if this was actually a contest that we're going to organize, we could make the contest master one of the roles that's going to appear on the page. Or maybe there's something that your club does that mine doesn't, or you just call it something different, like you have a humorist, but you call that the joke master. So we add that in. Count is whether there's more than one. So you typically have more than one speaker and more than one evaluator. A lot of these other things you just have one. And then you can add the time allowed that would be shown on the agenda. So we ask them to keep the speech to under 5 minutes. And again, I'll update and view, and we should see that Joke Master is now something that I can sign up for. Okay.
What's the difference between RSVP event and agenda? It said at the top you could edit the agenda or you could edit the RSVP event. And you used the RSVP event to change the agenda or to edit it.
Well, it's really the difference between And actually, when I use the word template, there's sort of like 2 layers of templates. But it's the difference between changing the structure of the meeting and changing who signed up for the meeting.
Okay.
So
Editing the agenda would be for the sign up, who signed up, and the structure is the one that's the RSVP event. Does that make
correct?
Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, you got it. And so you can think of better of ways of making that clearer, more obvious. I'm open to suggestions. I'm doing the best I can. I think Leslie's a UX designer. You gotta teach me. You gotta teach me your ways.
Sure.
Teach me the wonderful ways. I'm thinking of there's a line in Dune where they talk about teach me the warbling way, or whatever it was, the wizarding way. I don't know. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I have another question, if you don't mind.
Please go ahead.
Very much on my mind. I got really tangled up with the agenda thing. And I think that when I first filled out that very first thing you fill out, answer those questions and fill in the blanks, that I made some errors, and then thus it messed up all my agendas that it produced after that. And so I feel like I need to go back to square one and correct what I entered wrong. Can I do that?
You can do that. And the wizard is really meant to be used for the initial setup.
Right.
And
okay.
so yeah, I guess the thing that I don't want to do is like use that and mess up stuff that you've already put a bunch of work into.
Sure.
So it might make sense for you to go back to that. It might not. If you can sort of figure out just how to add in the additional role blocks, we could maybe take a few minutes to go through your specific site as an example.
Yeah, I lost all my agendas. They're all gone. Yeah.
Okay, and try and fix it. We could take a minute and do that. I think maybe we should give other people a chance to ask their questions first, and then maybe we could circle back to that. Okay. Other questions? And if there are none, we're just going to let Barbara run the whole meeting, which is fine.
You can hear me stammering the whole meeting, but that's all.
I'm used to the counter champion, so.
Yes.
Yes, Sherry.
Sorry, I was having trouble getting in, so I got here late. Did you talk about, because our club, this is just something we're considering. How do we start this?
Okay. Well, I'll send out a recording that includes that part, but essentially you go to the toastmost.org homepage. I make you register for the email list because I want some way of communicating with the people who run these sites. And then you fill out a form that basically just says the name of your club, your district, the web address that you want to use. It starts out as something.toastmost.org, but you could also register a specific domain for your site. Costs a little bit of money, not that much, maybe $15, $20 a year to go to GoDaddy or Google Domains. I would tend to steer you away from GoDaddy, actually.
Yeah, that's who we're with. We've got a custom URL or whatever you want to call it.
So that can be set up to be associated with your site. There's a little bit of work I have to do on the back end to set that up. I haven't figured out a good way of just, automating it so it just magically happens.
Okay.
But you would set up for a .toastmost.org thing as a test site. You probably don't want to make it your official site on day one anyway. And then you can come in and kind of kick the tires. And there is some stuff in the recording about how you do the basic editing, like editing your homepage, as well as how to, for the past few minutes, I've been talking about how to edit the agenda.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
I got a question. So do you have to register this new website name that we use, or is it necessary, like a must do, or not really?
No. We, in fact, you know, the club the online club I started in 2017, online presenters, we're still op.toastmost.org. Frankly, I do that partly because, well, until somebody twists my arm, I sort of want to associate it with toastmost.org and have people maybe become familiar with it in that context. But you know, there is a branding value in having your own domain, at least potentially. I'm not sure that it's all that huge of a factor in things like search engine optimization, because if you have good content and people are, you know, linking to you, you know, you want to make sure that if you make it your official website, that you update your listing in Club Central to point to it. So I think for the most part, if you have, you know, good content on your site, I actually have an article coming up in Toastmasters magazine that talks about, you know, how to build a better website for marketing and recruiting. I find a lot of clubs don't do basic things like explain where in the world they are. And if you think of, you know, the online nature of things these days, that becomes more important. There's a big difference between Melbourne, Florida and Melbourne, Australia. You might want to spell that out. You might want to tell people what time zone you're in. But you know, I think most of all, you need to tell people what is valuable about your particular version of the Toastmasters experience that would make people want to come and visit you. So, and that's true whether you're operating internationally or just locally.
Second question: how much does it cost if you did want to register your site's domain with GoDaddy or one of these entities that you do that with?
You know, it varies, but often they're running specials that make it, you know, cheap for the first year. It's probably typically something like $15, $20 to renew. You know, you'll find that there are certain domains that you might think are desirable that somebody is kind of squatting on, and you know, they'll want several $100s or $1,000 for you to get that domain. I tend to, you know, turn the page and try a different domain and see something I can get for $15. So you know, it's not a huge expense, and you definitely don't need it to get started. Though you might want to do it sort of in that period between when you're just testing your site and when you make it public. If you were going to do it, you know, in your first year, you might want to do it at the beginning so that Google indexes everything at that domain rather than things having to be forwarded. So
that's the only concern I could think of. Again, I'm not an internet guru, but I just was on your wizard. I'm from Brighton, so I did insights of Brighton.toastmost.org. But if we did that and then some hack person out there in the world squats on my insights of Brighton and it takes you to some other garbage site, I guess that could be something somebody could do out there in the world, right? They could hijack your name, and then I got to change my name or pay them money to get my name back.
Well, yeah, it's a concern. I mean, yeah, certainly, you know, big corporations worry about that. You know, somebody will register, you know, Disney.xx, which is, you know, some kind of Mickey Mouse porn site. I have a friend who runs a nonprofit investigative news site, so he made sure that he registered the .com version as well as the .org version, which is like the official web address. And he had registered all these other domains like .mobi, which is supposed to be for mobile sites or something. And I told him that was probably a waste of money if you're not promoting it somewhere. But, you know, people will, you know, type in .com just out of habit because it's the most common one. anyways, I probably babbled enough for.
Well, thank you. I don't want to ask you more questions. I just wanted to understand that before we start to do branding, and I'm a novice at this, so I just had to ask the dumb tourist question. Sorry.
Well, we're in Toastmasters to learn. That's one of the good things about the organization, is that we give people a chance to stretch and learn. And part of the case I've made for learning WordPress is that it is something that you can apply to your business or nonprofit sites outside of Toastmasters. Whereas if you become a free toast expert, you're, that is only interesting to other Toastmasters. Let's see, other questions? All right, well, I'm gonna go look at Barbara's agenda, because, and I'm gonna hope that other people can learn from that too. So which website is this, Barbara?
tt.toastmost.
Aha, you took my advice and kept it short.
Yeah.
So I say keeping it short is a good idea, because it will allow you to
See it. I don't even have one in there right now.
Type it in quickly. All right. Anyways, so yeah, she said you have none
in there right now.
Events showing up. Perhaps you went
So
back.
that is RSVP is event. Okay. All right.
Okay. This is showing past events.
Okay.
So this is future events. And so there are none showing up. There is, let's see, so you have event templates in here. Okay. Yeah, it looks to me like maybe you were a little bit confused, and
yes,
this might be your template.
I was
here.
Confused. Yes, definitely confused.
All right. Well, how about I'm just going to go through the exercise, because this might be interesting to folks. Is let's start from scratch. We're going to create a new template.
Okay.
And normally some of this would already be set up for you, but so I'm just going to call this weekly meeting. Do you meet weekly, or?
Yes.
Okay, and you meet every what?
Every Monday.
Every Monday.
Yeah.
And what time?
7
p.m. Okay.
Yeah.
And all right. Well, so this is here. I'm just creating a blank template.
Okay.
So this system can be used for all sorts of other things, but besides Toastmasters meetings. So you can create a special templates that you use for your open house events or things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a weekly meeting, and I want to add these plus signs are what we would use to add elements.
Okay.
And so I'm going to add a role, an agenda role, which will be Toastmaster of the day, which I would typically put up top.
Mm-hmm.
And in addition, we're going to have my nemesis, the counter. And then we're going to have
Or Marion or something. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to add.
Yeah, you just put them all on there, and then you can move them.
Well, right.
Correct?
That's the idea. So
Uh-huh.
so I'm going to do speaker, and speakers. How many speakers do you typically have?
Use 2.
2. Okay. So we have 2 speakers, and then later on in the meeting we'll have a general evaluator who introduces the evaluators, or at least that's the way it works in my clubs.
Yes.
And then we'll have the evaluators. Let's see, evaluator is going to be 2. And I haven't associated any time with any of these things yet. So
yeah, I'll get that off my old one. Yeah.
Maybe I want to do that. So we'll say 2 speakers. You're going to make it 15 minutes.
Correct. Correct.
Just a little extra time in there.
Mhm.
2 evaluators, so maybe that's 7 minutes just to be conservative. And we're probably going to add some additional elements too. Let's see if we went straight. See, another way you can add an element is you can say insert before or insert after. So
Oh, okay. Mhm.
just giving myself a blank line there.
Sure.
And now I want to add a note, one of these agenda. Oh, geez.
Oh, one of these down here that explains maybe the role, correct? Is that what it does?
Well, so I'm going to add a note that says 5-minute break.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And so, you know, I'm sort of specking this out in very broad terms and leaving
Sure.
it for you to go back and fill in some of the stuff
Yes.
later.
Yes.
But so it's a 5-minute break and we'll allow 5 minutes on the agenda for that.
Mhm.
And then maybe we also want to add this other kind of note, the editable note, and that is going to be our theme, or could be theme in order to die.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. So you could go in and, yeah, you just edit that. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that, so again, we're just providing a label here. We're not providing the text because the text
Correct.
is editable on the front end.
Sure.
So when I publish this, right now, this is really just, it's just a template. It's not it's not showing up really anywhere on the website, or at least it's not advertised anywhere on the website.
Mhm.
But I can go create update events. And now
There
I
they
can go
are.
in, and so it projects out according to your schedule what these future dates
Okay.
would be.
Sure.
I
see that.
And then, you know, we could go in and decide that we don't want this date because it's the day, you know, the Monday after Thanksgiving or something.
Mhm.
Or
Sure.
it might be, or we think people will still be hungover on January 3rd.
Correct. Yes.
So, you know, you can make exceptions if you need to, but then if you want to just add them as a batch, you're going to do this.
And wait a minute. Yeah.
And wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Don't get excited.
a couple of weeks ago, we did have like basic things that were supposed to be working on the site that weren't, because the server had run out of memory and I had to add more memory. This is why I charge folks, because they charge me when I upgrade the service. And so this is what we have so far. Speakers. Not showing
Right, I
3.
can go in.
Something's messed up here. It's showing too many speakers. What did I add like 20 instead of 2? Okay. I told you things were going to go wrong because they do. Let's see.
I think, sorry, this is April. I think when you did 15 for
Oh,
count and not for time.
Not for time.
Yeah.
I think you're right. that was dumb. Yes, you're right. Okay.
Oh, that's funny.
Oops. All right. So okay. So here's the situation. Now I realize that I've messed this up, and I went into the editor, but I went into the editor for the individual week. I still need to go back if I want to change it for all of them.
Oh, and edit the template.
I want to edit the template if I want to change it everywhere.
Oh.
So go back to speaker. Okay, it's supposed to be 2 speakers, and it's supposed to be 15 as the time allowed. Padding time is a little fudge factor I put in there, because if people try and sign up for more than 15 minutes of speaking time, it'll give them a warning. But maybe I want to build in another minute for you know, changing the slide projector or
Gotcha.
whatever, you know, sort of logistical things.
Mhm.
So all right, so we're going through the routine again. This time
Update.
this time when I come back here, it's going to show that these are already on the agenda, but we can update them by clicking here. And if there were sort of dates that were kind of off the edge of the universe that we wanted to add, we would have an opportunity to do that too. So I'm going to update all these. And so I'm glad somebody was paying attention and knew what I had done wrong. That's good. Maybe it'd be better if I didn't do things wrong. Speaker, general evaluator.
There we go.
Evaluator.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Very
right.
good.
So we're on track. You have more work to do to iron this out.
Sure.
Let me. I'm gonna wrap this up.
Well, that was very helpful.
In just a few minutes. We've been here for more than an hour now. You guys are always also helping me. So I just did want to show on the back end, there are a bunch of things that are accessible to all members under this Toastmasters menu. So I can go in and see my own progress. Basically, it allows me to go back and see my speech record according to what I signed up for on the agenda. So it may not be as complete as the pathways thing, but it might also tell me, remind me of something that I gave a speech and I forgot to record it in Basecamp. So I can sort of see my progress through the program there. There's some other reports. And then TM administration are things that would only be accessible to an administrator or a manager. You can go in and update the records after the meeting. If you're trying to keep accurate records, you might want to do that because somebody signed up to speak and they didn't actually show up. So you don't want them in the system as if they should get credit for that. And then there are a few features here that are not in the open source version of the software that people can install on their own WordPress sites. They're specific to Toastmost. And mostly they are email things. So you can have a mailing list for your club where people can write to tt@toastmost.org, and that will get distributed to all the other members. You can also have one for officers. So it's set up to be ttofficers@toastmost.org. You really just have to turn these things on if you want them to work. There is a forwarding system where people can write to addresses like tt-president@toastmost.org, and that should be forwarded to the president, assuming you recorded in the system who that is. You can also set up arbitrary forwarders that would be something like, TT Basecamp, and I want this to be forwarded to 2 or 3 people. And then this is, there is also a general mailbox that is set up as ttinfo@toastmost.org, which you can record in Club Central. And you can have that forward to several people who you list out here. If it detects that it's a Basecamp notification, you can have a slightly different list, maybe the president, VPE, and secretary. And something that we use at Online Presenters is when somebody does the Find a Club thing at Toastmasters International, and they go to that page to click on Contact the Club, we send them back an automatic response that says, go to our website, because the information you're looking for is probably on our website. The VP of membership will still usually follow up with that person. But it's a way of making sure people get an immediate response. Because if you look at the Find a Club directory pages, for my money, they don't advertise your website, and they don't really give you that much room to explain what your club is all about. So I would like to give people a little bit more information about the nature of the club. And so that's why I do that. You can either create a message. So let's see, I don't want to mess you up here, but if I save this and did create a message, it would basically create a blank one, and then I would get a chance to edit it. But just to give you the example of online presenters, let's say, so it should, oh, it just tells me what the content is. I thought there was a link here to edit it. I think that is a page. Let me see. Okay. Well, maybe I'm not going to be able to show you because I don't remember where it is. But let's see. I might be able to. I probably have a demo version. Oh, here it is. Okay, it's hiding in here. So if you go through Find a Club and you send a message off, it gets relayed to that email box. I recognize that it looks like, or the program recognizes that it looks like one of these Find a Club queries, contact you about your club, and it sends them back this message. Thanks for your interest. We want you to register as a guest on your website. Here's where you can find out a bunch of other information. And then I have a little commercial for Toastmost down the bottom. So I just snuck that in there and they let me. So anyways, those are things that probably most people don't even know are in the site. There is, if you go to the WordPress for Toastmasters site, there's a section called Knowledge Base that is the documentation. The documentation could use help. So again, I'm a professional writer. I know how to write, but I'm also the person who came up with the software, which means that sometimes I think things are obvious when they're not really not. So that is one of the things where I'm always looking for help, is people to work on documentation and training materials. But there are articles there that describe some of these things, how to turn them on, how to use them, sometimes with a little bit of video or at least some screenshots to walk you through it. So I keep trying. I have good intentions, and you are always welcome to reach out to me with questions. I can be sometimes slow to respond because I'm distracted by other things. But if you pester me a little bit, you are welcome to pester me a little bit. I want you to. So I mean, I started this. It was just supposed to be a one-off hack for my own club, and it's grown into this bigger thing. I put enough effort into it that I want it to be successful. And so if you need my help making you successful and making you motivated to go say good things, as opposed to I tried this and it was a terrible mess. That guy David actually does not know what he's talking about. He says he does, but he really does not. I would rather that you go away and say nice things. So
Very good.
Anything else? If not, I think we're going to wrap up.
I have one last question. I think you may have answered it. I am trying to add some people to our test site. They must register first, or do I have to have, I have one person added myself, but I know that both of us were already registered. So do the people have to have be registered, or do I just need their
well, you can register them.
Okay.
Let me go through how you add somebody manually. There is some, it's a whole other thing to go into, so I won't get into it now. But there is also an online version of the Toastmasters member application where people can sign up, and that gets sent off to the VP of membership or whoever you designate, who can approve it. And as part of that process, you can sort of create an account for people. That would be for new members.
Mhm.
But if I go to this menu that says users,
Right.
normally here actually in WordPress, it would say add users. But this is an add members page because we want to get sort of Toastmasters specific information about them. You can put in a suggested username, or you can leave that blank. And I would put in
So what I thought is that I could have their email, their first name, and I would have to have their Toastmaster ID. Are those?
No, that is not required. It is good. It is good to put that into the system eventually, because if you update their user record, then that gives me a number that I can match against to make sure I'm updating the right record. But just email and phone number are all that are, excuse me, just name and email are all that are required.
Okay.
So maybe that should actually say that here, since you found that confusing.
Well, I tried to hit add member, and then the two members that I clicked add member did not add.
Okay. So let me go through step through this. So I do add member. So it kind of echoes it back to me initially to make sure that things are correct, gives me a chance to make corrections, and then I say submit. And then we'll see, this is the information that should be emailed off to that person. So, it's just welcome. Here's a link to click to set your password. There is some customization that can be done to that message too, but let's not get into that right now. You can also download the spreadsheet from Club Central. So that you go to roster, and you can do export to a spreadsheet format, comma separated value format, CSV. You upload that file, or you can paste in the information, and it will allow you to add a whole batch of people.
Great.
And so that's how you would invite, maybe want to send people out a message of warning first. We're trying out this website. You're going to get a message inviting you to sign up. We're not using this as our official website just yet, but go in and experiment with signing up for a role. Tell us how you like it. So in the wizard, there was an opportunity to add, like 1 or 2 people right up front, but you can do it really at any time, either one at a time or as a batch, as I'm showing here.
Okay.
Cool.
I see what I did. I didn't hit that. I skipped over that second prompt that popped up.
Okay, yeah, and
that's what I
it's kind of the "Are you sure" of this,
right?
But particularly if you're importing that spreadsheet, you might realize that actually, Mary changed her email address, and the one that's shown here in the Toastmasters.org records isn't the right one, or a name is misspelled, or whatever. So it's to give you an opportunity to make those corrections, really, that we have that second screen popping up. But so
that's helpful. Thank you, because I ignored the second screen.
Okay.
But now I remember it popping up.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's leave it at that for today. Thanks, everybody. And
thank you.
Be in touch with your questions. Okay.
Very profitable. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.